Wake the up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
So with E3's big conferences over for another year, I thought it'd be fun to talk about what my thoughts were on the major conferences from the last couple of days. If I thought they were good, if I thought they were bad, what games I liked, and what I was surprised about, etc. I'm only going to be talking about Microsoft, Bethesda, EA Play, SquareEnix, and Ubisoft, because I didn't really watch PC and Nintendo because I don't own a Switch. On my PC I don't really play games on, and they're kind of the only ones I cared about enough to watch. So I'll start with EA Play. So EA are the ones that always kind of have me the least hype for E3, and that's not even because they're just an all-around shitty company, because they are an all-around shitty company, but it's because I'm not really their target demographic. I don't like sports games, I don't like Anthem or Apex, and I don't play The Sims, so I'm always only watching for Star Wars or Battlefield. And my enjoyment of Battlefield has definitely been waning in recent years because I haven't even gotten Battlefield 5 yet. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was their headliner this year and was something I couldn't wait to see more of. The little glimpse we saw at Star Wars Celebration was cool, and it was interesting, but nothing that made me want to freak out and scream about it. For comparison, both EA produced Battlefront games, despite their quality, always had trailers that really pumped me up. They definitely knew to get you hyped. Fallen Order's one trailer hadn't done that. And I hate to say, but EA's conference didn't really change that. I liked the gameplay just fine, but again, nothing really pumped me up or blew me away. It's a Star Wars game that's in canon, so while I hate to admit it, they had my money from the day they announced the game. But I just hope they show some more before release, because at the moment it just doesn't really excite me that much. The lightsaber combat was cool, and definitely seems like they took major inspiration from the Force Unleashed games, which is cool I guess, but while the Force Unleashed games are great, they're also 10 to 15 years old, and maybe they could use a little bit of an upgrade. I don't really want to talk about the other EA stuff, because it's not really my kind of thing. I don't want to say I didn't like the stuff, because I'm obviously not one of the fans of those games, so it's not fair for me to say whether I liked them or I hated them or whatnot. The Battlefield 5 stuff looked interesting. I've yet to buy that game, but I do love Battlefield, so maybe I'll pick it up at some point. I've played maybe one game of Apex in my life, but Season 2, that also looks interesting, so I'm happy for the fans of that. EA tried to change the look of their showcase this year by making it feel more casual and personal, and they just it was like this weird thing where they'd have chairs and they'd have the people come outside and like sit in the chairs and interview them about the games. I don't really think it suits a games conference. I do think it was much better than EA's conference last year, because that was just a complete shit show. Next up after EA was Microsoft with Xbox, and I gotta say they really know how to go all out for these conferences. The last couple of years they've brought their absolute A game and frankly just obliterated the other conferences. They know what gamers want. We don't want 2 hours of people sitting in chairs talking about their games. We don't want mobile and VR games being shown constantly one after another. Microsoft feels like it's here for the fans, while most of the other companies feel like they come to E3 as an obligation and for the business aspect. And I'm sure Microsoft does come for the business aspect too, but they definitely know how to make it look like they're not here for business, they're here for the fans. Microsoft always feels like their conferences were structured by gamers, and I fucking love that. This year they showcased over 60 games, tons of new developers that they've bought, and we also got our first real look at their next generation console, which is being called Project Scarlet. Overall, I think Microsoft was by far the champion of this E3 again. The amount of stuff they have to show is just overwhelming, and I don't know how any other conference was supposed to compete with them. And with Sony not showing up this year, Microsoft didn't really have that much competition as well. I do gotta say that I was surprised Call of Duty didn't show up at this conference, because they normally show off a new trailer at Sony's part, but due to Sony not being here, I was like, maybe they'll cut a deal with Xbox so that they can get out for E3 and like show some new trailer or something, but COD ended up sitting out the entire panels like completely. The big surprise of Microsoft, and just the big surprise of E3 in general, honestly, was Keanu Reeves. The reveal that he's in Cyberpunk and that he was actually at the conference too was so awesome. We really are going through a Keanu renaissance lately, because he's showing up in everything and I'm so here for it. Just put him in everything, anything you can, I want to see him in it. I was honestly a little on the fence about Cyberpunk 2077 till now. I've tried so many times to get into The Witcher 3, and CD Projekt Red's games just don't really appeal to me that much, but for some reason what they showed of Cyberpunk this year really hyped me up. Keanu definitely helped. But it might just be that I'm more down for the futuristic setting than I am the medieval-like era of The Witcher. Last year's Cyberpunk trailers didn't really pump me up that much, and I was still kind of on the fence about them, but this year definitely changed that. And the crazy thing about this is that Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't even their ace in the hole this year. Besides Cyberpunk, there were so much. The real ace was the Halo Infinite trailer, and just by extension the whole Project Scarlet part of the conference. It's really awesome that the trailer they showed for Halo is basically the first proper look at a next generation game, since we know it's a launch title for the Project Scarlet. There's always a chance The Last of Us 2 will get pushed back to next gen, and it's likely the games such as Red Dead 2 and Cyberpunk 2077 will get a remaster and a re-release on the next console, like for how GTA 5 was on both Xbox 360 and Xbox One and got re-releases on both, same with the PlayStations. But there's just something really fucking cool about knowing that Halo's trailer is the first actual snippets of a game and gameplay that is designed solely for next generation, or at least the first we are seeing. 2020 can't get here soon enough. Besides that, we saw Gears of War 5. I'm not too interested in that franchise, not much I can say. The LEGO Forza bit got me weirdly hyped, which is weird, like I really want to play that like right now. We saw a proper trailer for Fallen Order, and there's a 9-game version of LEGO Star Wars coming out, which, you know, Star Wars, so I'll probably get it. Basically, Microsoft showed so many games that I could honestly sit here and talk about them all day, but the ones I mentioned are the main ones that caught my attention. The console, I'm sure, will be insane. Current game consoles like the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X and S are already pretty on par with most high-end PCs, and Project Scarlet and the PS5 are just going to push that envelope even further, and it's so insane to think about. Moving on from Microsoft, because I really could talk about them all day, is Bethesda. So a quick little background on me and Bethesda, or more so Bethesda Game Studios. They are my favourite developer in the games industry, and despite their hiccups in the last couple of years, I still love them. The Elder Scrolls is by far my favourite game franchise of all time, and Fallout is also very far up there. I think no matter what, I'll always be the guy who is defending them and in their corner, but holy shit do they need to stop doing E3 conferences. Every year I stay up late, hoping, praying that they show something good, and every year I leave disappointed. They have nothing worth showing, and it really, really shows. One semi-big game a year isn't enough to do E3. The only year I think they justified being there was for Fallout 4 in 2015, which was also their first E3. They showed enough besides Fallout to really make that E3 fun and enjoyable. But every year since, it's just gotten further and further away from watchable. Last year I thought we couldn't get any lower, and pretty much all they had was Fallout 76 and a few smaller titles. But overall it was frankly a shit show. This year was unbelievably worse, and all they had was Doom Eternal and a bunch of mobile games or DLC for some of their online games. I really hate this trend where developers think that mobile games are worth talking about at E3 and taking up time at E3. Sure, Doom Eternal looks great, and there were a few other cool little bits like the Ghost game from the Evil Within devs and Deathloop. But man, was the overall thing frustratingly bad. This is the only conference that I thought was terrible this year, and it was by far the low point in my opinion. Then Ubisoft was up next, and I wasn't really too hyped for this one either. Assassin's Creed and their South Park games are all I kind of enjoy from Ubisoft, and since we knew from leaks months ago that Assassin's Creed was sitting this year out, I naturally expected nothing from them. I didn't expect anything from the South Park games either, but we did know that Watch Dogs 3 was coming, called Watch Dogs Legion, and I finished the first one and liked it fine, but I never got around to the second, although I've heard it's great. So Watch Dogs Legion, I don't know. The presentation definitely didn't do enough to make me want to play the game, or even to go out and play the second. It seemed pretty bland and uninteresting in my opinion, and they went back to a darker setting such as London, or I don't know if they said it was London, I just know that it was the UK. And the colour palette looks very similar to the first Watch Dogs game, rather than the bright, vibrant setting of San Francisco in the second game. I think the whole Watch Dogs segment could have been a whole lot better, to be honest. I did think the Assassin's Creed Symphony at the beginning was beautiful, and I was really surprised with how much of the main themes they went through. Like, they only really skipped Unity and Syndicate, and I guess Rogue, so that's impressive as hell that they got that many of the themes into that small little brief part of the music. We got a bunch of Tom Clancy related stuff, such as new games, one featuring John Bernthal and him coming out on stage with his dog, and that automatically made me enjoy this more than Bethesda's conference, because John Bernthal is just another fucking awesome guy like Keanu Reeves. We're also getting a Division movie on Netflix, so that's something. And we're also getting a Ubisoft-funded TV show from some of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia people, which is also weird, but I'll see. It's on Apple Plus, or whatever their streaming service is called, so I'll probably give it a miss. But Ubisoft has always focused on TV and movies a weird amount compared to other devs. They did the same with Assassin's Creed, the movie, back in 2017. And Ubisoft is also starting up their own streaming service for games, like Xbox's with Xbox Game Pass. Which, this is another thing that's getting annoying in the game industry. It's already annoying with television, and now it's seeping into the video games. I was also asking myself a couple hours before the Ubisoft conference why there was no Ubisoft games like any Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs on the Xbox Game Pass, so Ubisoft kind of answered my own question. Gods and Monsters, sorry, I believe was the game that they showed at the very end, was the one game from Ubi that I'm very interested in. It seems to be like a combination of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it just looked like a really cool game. That was pretty much all I want to talk about from Ubisoft. I was bored for a lot of the conference, to be honest, but I still had a bunch of fun. I also don't care admitting that I thought the Just Dance bit on stage was kinda great. The final conference, or at least the final one that I wanted to watch, was Square Enix. And I'll be completely upfront with you, I was only watching this for Avengers. If Avengers wasn't at this, I wouldn't have been watching. Because most of what they do isn't for me. Most of the conference was devoted to Final Fantasy and the kind of games in that style. Now I know that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is something that fans have wanted for a while, so I'm really happy that they're getting that. And maybe I'll try it when it comes out. But overall they aren't really my kind of games, so Avengers is pretty much all I was watching for. And then after an hour of Japanese RPGs, it was finally time for Avengers. And it was underwhelming. And let me just explain for a second. I don't know what expectations I have in my head, and it's completely on me for whatever I was thinking the game was going to be wasn't what it was. That's my own fault for thinking like that. But it just wasn't whatever I wanted it to be. It just wasn't what they showed, and I'm completely going to own the fact that I'm probably the only one who feels like this. I have no idea what my problem with the game is. I can't put my finger on it, but I just know that I wasn't very happy with what they eventually showed us. I guess I kind of wanted the game to have that Spider-Man PS4 look and feel, but it just didn't. It wasn't as bright and vibrant as Spider-Man, the music wasn't half as good, the characters looked really bad. It was like they started designing them with the intention of using the MCU likeness, but halfway through creation they just learned they couldn't use them. And because the 5 Avengers we saw looked just enough like the MCU to make you go, that looks weird, but enough to make them not have to pay for the rights. Overall I just felt very off about it, but again, this could all be me. So yeah, and the Avengers was the biggest thing I was looking forward to this year, so that was kind of a disappointment. So that's everything I thought about this year's E3, and if I'm perfectly honest, I think Microsoft was the only one that actually was worth watching this year, or was the only one who actually justified being there. Well, I guess Square Enix did justify being there for things like Final Fantasy and all that. If I had to rank them, it'd be Microsoft, then Square Enix, then Ubisoft, then EA, and then Bethesda. Yeah, but what did you think about E3? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? And I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and I hope you have an awesome day.